Hey, what's going on everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Now, if you watched my last video, we talked about how, well, in this video, we're going to be doing a free-to-play farmable tier list. Or rather, I've done the tier list, and we're going to be talking about this. Now, what do I mean by free-to-play farmable tier list? It means all of the best characters that are farmable right now. Now, a lot of the characters are farmable, but what this means is that for the ones that are not, and the ones that aren't available for players right now, they're not going to be high up on the tier list because you're not going to be able to get them, or you're going to have to splash a lot of cash in order to use gems to buy them. There's a few characters particularly, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. So those characters won't really be on this list. And because with the star rank changes, I think that the game's meta might be flipped on its head a little bit, because we know that 6 and 7 star characters are going to get huge stat increases. Like, it's dramatic. 3x for 6 star and 4x for 7 star. So compared to characters that you might free to play access, like Legolas and Gimli right now, who are ongoing with their adventures at 3 star, unless you're willing to spend a lot on them, you're not going to really see the benefits of their stats. And that's why I think you might actually do better with some of these characters that we're going to be talking about in this video. So if you're ready to go, everybody, for the month of July 2023, we're hoping to do this once a week, once a month, and we'll be updating this as we go along. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. So here it is. This is the tier list that I have arranged, and with all the characters minus Legolas and Gimli, who aren't farmable anyways and don't really need to make a mention on this list for now. Who knows? Maybe, I doubt they'll be on it next month, and there's a reason why some of the elves are on this, but they're not farmable either, but we'll talk about that. So this is my arrangement of the best characters that I think that you should be farming. Now, there's a lot of characters that maybe you should be farming, and I'll tell you the characters that I'm farming, right now, and the characters that I'm working on. And you can notice the Strider's on S tier, but it's because you're getting shards for him every single day. Not that you need to do that, because you're kind of already doing that as you go along. So I want to start from the bottom up rather than the top up, and because I need to explain some of this. So I have this special category. It's called the must farm. Now, I know Elrond's in there. You can't really farm Elrond. However, you can farm the characters that are required for his event, which are elves. Now, at this point in time, there's 6 elves, but you obviously cannot farm Arwen and Elladan, who are these two down here, because they're not yet available. Now, Arwen is available for gems, but I don't recommend doing this, and it's not a free-to-play manner to do so, and so I would wait. Now, as of recording this video, I don't know how much longer we're going to be waiting necessarily for Arwen to become farmable, or how she's going to become farmable, or where. Maybe in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we might get that information, and so maybe by the time I do another video of these next month, that they'll have been a bit more clear about that. Elladan, same thing, probably about 2 weeks behind Arwen, whatever the method ends up being. You can, however, farm Lomian, Leliel, and Naramiri, and of course Elro here, who is at the top, and you're probably not surprised as to why that is. So there are a handful of characters for elves that you can farm right now if you want to, if Elrond's someone that you want to, get on the next pass. We don't know when that's going to be. It could be in 3 months' time, it could be in 2 months' time, it could be in 4 months' time, it could be different. I don't know, because we don't have the data to suggest how frequently that's going to happen. So take that for what it's worth. The characters as standalone, not really that great. I mean, if you've managed to unlock Elladan, then I would definitely work on Elro here, but we'll talk about that when we get to him, because he has a very important situation. We'll talk about who's in the D tier, though, and I don't have an F tier. I mean, I deleted a few of these rows, but anyways, the D tier is basically characters that you don't really need to concern yourself with, in my opinion, right now, and or they're not free to play farmable. They're the reverse of that, which means it's gems only for the most part. Goblins, it's funny how goblins are, because during the beta they were actually your go-to set of characters. You were given actually Golbers, aka Goblin Batmaster, whatever his name was, and Chef. They were the 2 characters that you started with in the beta, but now you don't. And you also had a login calendar for Great Goblin, which you did get actually at the start of the game, but it's pretty useless now. So they're all down here. Now, Are the Goblins going to be used for a future Flash event or something that they might do? I heard in Star Wars it's called the Credit Heist. In Marvel Strike Force it's called Payday, for example, or any other arrangement of Flash events that might happen once a month, you know, to do things with challenges, maybe. You know, and if they start doing that, I'll start farming them. I have them all unlocked, though, because I kind of like to go out of my way to at least unlock characters and get them to around 2-star, because who knows what might come out down the line. But I wouldn't recommend, like, actively shard farming them. There is Dunland here. Dunland? Anyways, there's 2 characters here, right? Is there a third? Did I miss anyone? Oh, Edric is part of Dunland, right? So there's 3 of them. But anyway, I don't know why Edric was up there, actually, now that I think about it. But anyways, so these characters, they're not currently any use. I am actually trying to unlock Alreda, the chieftain. If you look at my roster, I pretty much have everyone unlocked, bar a few. And at the bottom of the list is, well, Gimli, I guess, there. And then Alreda the Chieftain. So I just want to get them unlocked. And I should probably do the same with Mary, honestly. But I don't know. I skipped that node. Tordok, who I don't have, which is further in the Shadow Hard Mode campaign. I'm not spending gems for this. And Halbrad I talked about at length in previous videos that I just don't use my... I'm kind of semi-hoarding my challenge tokens, but I'm not actively upgrading Halbrad because I made the mistake of going Bolg, and I just don't want to spend more challenge tokens because it's just going to be a slow grind. Take it for what you will on Halbrad. It's just that I don't have the resources to even upgrade him anyways. So there we are. So Troll the Brute was kind of explained there. Not free-to-play available. Great character, but just not free-to-play available. And that's why he's down here. You know, if this was a list about all the best characters in the game, he would be somewhere probably at least in the A tier. But I don't think that he is worth it for free-to-play players. And with the star rank changes, even more so. That Ironhide is just miles ahead of him because he's actively farmable and Brute is not. So that's just a simple reason for it. Same thing for Eldred, for Rohan, not farmable, gems only, not really good. Now the Mordor team, there's a few of them here. And Nuraz. I was never really a big fan of Nuraz. Now, you can farm Nuraz, but I don't think he has a real place in the game's meta enough to actively warrant farming him. Mordor's in a very shit spot, because I heard that they didn't really fix Shagrat's leader ability, you know, to the way that it was supposed to be. I don't have a Mordor team built from the people that I've talked to. People are not happy with where Mordor is sitting right now, so I don't think that is worth building, worth shard farming either really actively, and they're pretty much a full team with 5 characters, and so I'm not convinced that they're going to be used in a future legendary necessarily at this stage. Now, I know not everyone's really shard farmed them, but I don't see that, because normally for those kind of things that they want to look at characters that maybe have 3 or 4 characters, and then they add some marquees and so on and so forth. But who else is in the C tier? Well, we have the Hobbits. Frodo, we have the Return to Rivendell, minus Pippin, is in here because, well, you can't really actively farm Sam. You're going to have to do his Road to Rivendell excess to get beyond 3 stars, and Frodo and Merry are not super great standalone, in my opinion. Then we have Edric. I think the reason why he was in there was because Edric is in the early guild campaign, and some people might use him just for a little bit in the Shadow campaign, rather, you know, until you get some better characters. I think, and because he is farmable. So maybe that's why I included him in there, so you can get him unlocked at least. We have the 2 Gondor characters in here. I think there's a possibility that they'll be used in a future Now, when that happens, I have no idea. But with Boromir, Faramir, and Denethor, because they are in the game. And so whether or not that this ends up being a highly meta team, but they're farmable. So if you have extra energy and you want to do that, go for it. Bolg and Halbrad, they're here in the C tier because I just didn't know where else to place them, honestly. The farmability of these 2 characters are shit, and the challenge tokens is garbage. You don't get a lot, and they cost so much for their shards. It's 1,000 for 2. It's honestly crap, and I hate it, but they're in here anyways. It is what it is, I guess. If you want to keep still buying shards for either of them or Halbrad in hopes that, you know, things are going to get better, go ahead. I'm just currently sitting on my tokens until I get towards the cap, and then I don't know, I spend them on essences, you know, believe it or not. So take that for what it's worth. Miri, again, I don't think the Rangers are really in a good spot. I don't think you really need to do this. In terms of your tokens in that shop, kind of better off on one of the other characters above who we'll talk about, and you have Tordok here as well, which would go with Bolg. Can't farm him. Honestly, probably needs to be down in D tier, but he's not a terrible character. It's just that he's a super late farm. Then we have Wilfin, we have Morza, and Shagrat, who who are down here, just because I think that they have better synergy and better standalone value than these characters in the D tier. You know, if you're building up, or if you had previously built up a Rohan, maybe there might be a flash event that will actually require Wilfin to be a part of it. Same with Eldred, actually down the line, you know, to actually have a full Rohan team for some event. Who knows? We don't have it yet though, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Morza, I think is like I still think that they're the worst Isengard character on the team. I don't really use full Isengard anyways, and so that's probably why it's influencing my decision here. If you want to, again, there could be an Isengard Flash event as well. There's a full 5-man team, so very well that they could add more resources into these sort of Flash event once a month nature. Not even sure why they don't have it already, because that would really help things like gold crunches, you know, if they had, and give it a reason to upgrade and shard farm some of these characters. So that actually, ironically, that goes through like 2/3 of the entire roster of the game, because most of them you don't really need. And so we're going to be focusing on the main characters here in the B tier. So we do have Dunhar and Azhak, who are obviously really good additions to the Isengard team. Azhak is insane. He is a bit of a glass cannon. His damage is very high. However, he is farmable, but it is a little bit later on. But once you unlock that node, I would do that if you are building an Isengard team. If you're building an Isengard orc team, I recommend Azhak to be on there. Very strong, very worthwhile to build. I have him at gear 5. It's not super high, but for the content that I'm doing in the Shadow campaign, he does hit very hard. So very worth having. Fili, Kili, and Fro. Now, I've mentioned this previously in my other videos. I think that Fili and Kili are an insane duo when they get the chance. The problem is that there's no dwarf leader ability. Fro is also an incredibly sturdy tank. Almost as sturdy as Gimli, but Gimli being a marquee character has a better kit. That being said, as soon as there is a dwarf leader ability, I think that you're going to want to consider this. So I think that at least you're not building them, but you should shard farm these characters, because I think that whether it's Thorn's Company or whether it's more dwarves and some dwarf synergy, you're going to want to have Fili and Kili at the very least, you know, having shard farmed. And because the stack growth on the shard stuff, especially 5, 6, and 7 star are so important, you know, you're going to want to make sure you have it. Are they going to be a future legendary unlock? Who knows, right? Like, I think we're kind of pivoting more towards the shadow side coming soon. We've had a lot of light characters, so I think that's inevitable. But nonetheless, you should consider Fili Kili and have them on your shard farm list as soon as you get those nodes unlocked. Now, the A tier. A lot of these characters are either going to be node farmable or they're going to be in the guild campaign, and we'll talk about them individually. So Mauher is the second most important character, in my opinion, in the Isengard team. He does have that team-up attack with Ugluk, and he does a lot of damage. Now, if you have Mauher, actually, that's why I should have said about Azhak. So if you want to include Azhak, make sure that you have Mauher, because there's synergy between these two, and then synergy between Mauher and Ugluk. So make sure you have these 3 on the team, and obviously want Dunhar as part of an extra heal. Anyways, very strong character. You know, you can farm him every day, and he's going to scale well because his damage stat is very high on the shadow side of things. Pippin, one of the few healers that are rapidly farmable in the guild campaign. We already discussed him, but if you are in the early and maybe even in the mid game, you might want to start or consider getting more shards for him, at least maybe up to 5-star, because it's very easily accessible and he's going to be a good rounded healer. So that's very good there. Haradrim. Now this is very important, and we're going to lump them in together here with Wubete, Robel, and Yeftu. Now, the reason why Wubete is up here is because he is rapidly farmable in the guild campaign, something that you should consider early on. He is the tank for the Haradrim. Robel has a little bit of this, but Robel's, I would say, more damage, and Yeftu is heavy damage on this. So, very good characters. I think that we may be pivoting to a Haradrim shadow meta in the near future. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's also why I started, you know, building them up a little bit in preparation of it. I also think that outside of the Isengard characters, these are your best characters anyways, and I think that they're going to add the other Haradrim characters into it. There is rumor that they still may be a unlock for a shadow legendary character, and so if that's the case, then you want to stay on top of the shard farming for these guys. And I think that their kits are very good, and once they add the other Haradrim characters, it's going to be really amazing. So now we have the Rohan characters, Eothane, Eomer, and Eothane, Eowyn, and Eomer up here. And they're all in the A and the S tier because, well, Eomer is in a store. You can get shards for him a lot quicker, I think, than you can farm Eothane and Eowyn. I'm getting tongue-tied here. Because they're on nodes. So these guys are on nodes. Aomer's in a store. You can get more of this faster than you can these two here. Nonetheless, the Rohan 3 was meta for a long time until the Elrond Elf meta. But because they're farmable, I think that some people might still keep going with them. And we're going to get value out of them in Mines of Moria. Because you're going to need a little bit of a wider roster. So if you were someone who built these characters, then I would still consider shard farming for them so that you can get their stats up even higher. And maybe when we do get more resources, that you might be able to actually add a little bit more into these, and they'll still be pretty good. So they're very good. There's a good synergy here, obviously, with the leader ability of Aowen with these characters. So I want to give a good nod to them because they're still characters that are worth having. Aomer has some pretty good standalone value as well, but even better if you use Aowen because Aomer has a lot of assists that you can get, and especially if you upgrade the passive, then you can get assists with any character. It doesn't have to be a Rohan character. Strider, again, you're getting 5 shards every single day. So my Strider's at 6 star. Or he could be at 6 star, rather, if I wanted to upgrade him. So you get shards for him pretty quick, and he does have above average stats. He is a good standalone character because he's got AoE, he's got some good burst damage, and so he's not someone that you should necessarily skip over. He is a good character to build, but he's also easy to get shard farms for. So you're going to get him to 7 star. Well, I mean, it's going to take a couple of months, but you're probably going to get him after outside of farming rapidly the guild campaign. He's probably going to be your next character that you're going to actually get to 7 star pretty quickly. So there's that. Ironhide Troll. Best Shadow Troll, best free-to-play farmable shadow character in the game, pretty much. His AoE is insane. You're going to want to make sure you get to him as high as star rank as possible. AoE is going to be king in Mines of Moria. AoE kind of is already king. Does a lot of damage. His output damage is insane. Very sturdy, great character. You should make sure you get him to 7 star. That's basically what I'm saying. Same with Ugla. Great character for different reasons. Very good leader ability. He heals for the Isengard team pretty much based on boons when boons are applied by Isengard orcs. Very easily farmable. He is very fast for an orc, surprisingly, and he is a very great, well-rounded character that you should be doing right at the beginning of the game. And even then, you should probably consider, if you're building him, you should consider getting his star rank a little bit higher up. And finally, we have Elro here, who is the best and easiest farmable elf character. But if you don't have Eladin, he loses a lot of value. And if you're not building the elf team, he kind of loses a lot of value. But I do want to say that if you have these, if you've ticked these other boxes, that Elro here is a priority in terms of shard farming and building if you're using the elf team or you are going to do so. Or if you're going to shard farm him to unlock Elrond, that's going to be very important. You can get him to 5 star very quickly for Elrond. You don't necessarily have to build him if you don't have Eladin or Elrond available to you, but at least have that in the back of your mind just to get him to 5 star so that when Elrond does come back around that you can do that. So basically anything B, A, and S, in my opinion, represents some of the best characters that you should be considering your shard farm now. A lot of these I am farming. So I'm currently using my guild energy to farm Ironhide. I did get Elro here to 6 star, and then my other farms include Aomer, Wubete in the guild shop, Aomer's in the arena store, and then I also am doing Robel, Yeftu, Eothane, Eowyn, Fili, Kili, and Fro. I am not doing these Isengard characters, even though they're in the B tier. It's just because I'm pivoting away from Isengard. That's not because they're bad, and maybe I'm making an early judgment call by building into Haradrim, but I think that they're going to have some better benefits. But for those of you who have pre-built the Isengard characters or still are doing so, then I definitely recommend these characters. And I didn't really go that hard into Pippin, but he is one of the easiest available healers, and I kind of wish I maybe got him up a little bit higher in the star ranks, because he is going to be better, especially post-patch. So that's everything. I know that went on for a little while, but I just wanted to explain my thoughts and why that free-to-play farmable is really important, because those star rank stats are going to be incredibly important. So that's my roster. That's my tier list. That's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and maybe I'll run another one in about a month's time. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the back of the next patch, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.